Hello everyone and welcome to Blaugrana Everything and welcome back to the channel and I guess welcome back to Barcelona's Bozo gene when it comes to the Champions League knockouts, because once again in a clutch moment we see a red card to one of our defenders which completely ruins the match, which if you ask me up until that point was looking like a pretty good match. Like, I wouldn't really say that, Barca were dominating, because, that would be a bit of an exaggeration, but they were definitely, I would say, having the upper hand, and Atleti weren't looking as dangerous as maybe we would have thought, which I guess when you look at it, at the end of the day, Barca playing this match for more than 45 minutes down to 10 men, we should also say that it was a good thing it was only two, which is, it's crazy when those are your only positives you're taking from this kind of a performance. But from my side, I think it's just a bit of disappointment. I think in, this guy in particular, the guy who got sent off, Pau Cubarsis. I mean, lately he's been on the ascendancy. The performances that we've been seeing from him, they've been pretty good. But this time around, he really just, he kind of just, he messed up. I mean, was it necessary for him to go across the attacker like that, knowing he's the last man, knowing that, in this day and age, even just the slightest contact is enough for the referees to give a decision? He should know better, I wouldn't say he's a veteran or, he's vastly experienced, but at the same time as well, this is his fifth Champions League quarterfinal tie that he's played in his career, so he should be a lot smarter than we saw. And unfortunately, once he went off, well, the game kind of just, there was only one way you could see that game ending, and it didn't even take long after that for Atleti to open the scoring. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's more of a shock that they only scored two. But I guess maybe because they were away from home, they did look a bit shy compared to some of what we've seen from them recently. But all in all, it wasn't too bad from Barca up until the red card. It looked, you looked like, we could probably get a 1-0 or 2-0. But instead, here we are, 2-0 down. And going into the second leg now, look, I'm not going to be out here and say that, the tie is dead, Barca has no way back, because that wouldn't be completely honest. It's not like Barcelona haven't won matches away at Atleti, right? They've won at the Metropolitano very often, more often than not, if anything, since that stadium was opened. So the chance is still there, but it's a very slender chance. And I don't know, but I think Hansi Flick just has to go with the same kind of starting 11 we saw in La Liga, where, there's none of this Lewandowski or Ferran stuff. Just, use Olmo, use Fermin, have them guessing who's the number 9. Just, make use of the movement from them. We saw once again here, it was a good performance, you should admit, by Lamine Yamal. Of course, unfortunately, he couldn't get, once again, a goal contribution here, which is probably what people went to focus on. But, you could see 3 key passes, 1 big chance created, 0.5, 3 expected assists. And, of course, this guy, he just come out of nowhere, Juan Musso, and all of a sudden, he's just Atleti's answer to Barcelona in between the sticks, because today already 0.76 goals prevented. And just overall, I think in this series of matches Barca has had versus Atleti, he's looked like the better keeper. Compare him to Joan Garcia, which, if I'm to be honest, I'm still kind of waiting for Joan Garcia to step up in one of these Atleti matches, because, he really hasn't shown his best version when we're up against Atleti. I think the way we've seen him against, when Barca was playing teams like Rayo, all of those other teams, we haven't really seen that level from Joan Garcia, which isn't to say that he was terrible, because he wasn't. But like I said, I feel like we need him to just come up with a bit more in this match, especially at the Metropolitano, because if he doesn't, we're not getting anything. And again, just, to illustrate my point, when I say that Barca were the better team, especially in that first half, you could see from looking at the XG, Atleti didn't create so much, only a total of 5 shots at the end of the game. And maybe this is something which could also just go to be like an indictment for Hansi Flick, because for all of the wonderful stuff that he's done, look, like if there's the one thing which I would point out to say, this is a thing I have issue with. For me, it's not even the whole back line, the high line, high press thing. Like, I've got no problem with that. I understand why it's done. I'm cool with it. But I have never, in my time as a Barca fan, lived through any experience where Atleti come into matches confident that they can beat us. Not even under Ronald Koeman, okay? Not even under Ronald Koeman have Atleti ever come into a match confident they would beat us. But they look that way when we play them. The past couple of seasons, that's how they've looked. And we've played them probably way too much for my liking, what was it, 5 times last season or 4 times last season? This time already we're going up to, what's it going to be, 6 times? Which, like I said, that's more than enough of Atleti, in my opinion. But I feel like with each match we play against them under Flick, they are more confident than the last time we faced them. Which, under Xavi, even, that was never the case. I mean, like, Xavi, I think, had a 100% record against them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember us ever drawing with Atleti in his time. But like I said, that's like the one thing which I'd probably hold against Hansi Flick. And it's probably, I'd say, the worst omen Barca has. So I don't know who's even going to be starting. We're not going to, the Metropolitano. It's probably going to have to be Eric Garcia in defense, meaning that maybe we might see Pedri Gavi, midfield too. And hopefully Pedri is okay because, he came off early. He came off at halftime. So we don't know why. Hopefully it's not because he's injured. But all of that aside, anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens, I guess, next week. But, more likely than not, we're not going through. And it's definitely, once again, going to be because we just let ourselves down. Just clumsy moment at the back, leading us down to 10 men. And then just once we get down to 10 men, maybe what Flick should start doing is just practicing how to play with 10 men whenever we're going into a Champions League knockout round, because we do it so much. So maybe that's what the focus of our training should be, even going into that match, the Metropolitano. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the performance and what the game was like. Again, like I said, it looked to me to have been a pretty good game, but that was, ruined by, obviously, the very foolish red card that Pau Cubarsis picked up. But I thank you all for tuning in. Do have a great day, and Forza Barca.